Welcome back inside Studio 889. I'm Mo Wilks. Welcome. It would seem like a difficult task to write one stage performance production, let alone 9. But that's exactly what my guest, playwright Mfoniso Udofia, has actually done. Bravo on that accomplishment. The Ufot family cycle, written by playwright and educator and Wellesley grad, Miss Udofia. The play is basically an installment in her sprawling 9-play cycle tracing generations of a Nigerian-American family. The origin story told in their migration to Houston, Texas. And the name of the production is called In Old Age. It hits ArtsEmerson's Liebergott Black Box Theater, which is the Paramount Center, 559 Washington Street, this Saturday, June 13th, through Sunday, the 28th, and it follows Abasiyama, an 80-year-old Nigerian woman living alone in Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm going to ask about that. And so, welcome to Studio 889, Mfoniso Udofia. Welcome to Studio 889. Thank you very much for giving us a couple of minutes today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. It's wonderful to meet you, Maurice.
Thank you very much. So, share a little something about you for the audience who doesn't necessarily know who you are.
Okay. My name is Mfoniso Udofia. I am first-generation Nigerian. I was born in Houston, Texas. What else might you want to know about me? Oh, I used to I was a musician first. So I play jazz trombone and I sing opera, and I'm also a writer. So I just gave you some bullets on a resume.
How did the music either influence the writing, or how come you didn't get pulled into music versus the writing?
Well,
or maybe you are and I just don't know it.
No, I don't. I don't do a lot of musical performance for public.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those things for me where I needed to have one form of art that I could do in my home and know it was just for me, just for my family. And singing was definitely that for me. The writing, you can add a deadline. I can be within a kind of writing machine and be okay. But I didn't want to do that singing. And I definitely didn't want to do that in terms of instruments. So I kept that for myself.
Now, as I mentioned, writing one piece of work, art, is probably difficult. Most people would say, okay, I've done that. Now, okay, I'm going to take a break. 9. Is that like a special number for you? How did you go through doing 9? Or did you just like write this entire big work and say, I got to chop this up?
Okay, so I started out writing one. Started off real regular. It was one play, and that was The Grove, which the Huntington put on as part of the cycle. But when I first wrote the play The Grove, it wasn't great. I didn't love it, and so when you make something, it's not ready to be out there in the world. I put it in my drawer, and I started writing something else. And I started writing the story of Adiaga, who is the main protagonist in that play. I started writing the story of her parents, Abasiyama and Disciple. And that opened up a world for me. And one play became 3. I edited The Grove inside of that period. Then I got interested in not just the parents, but exactly Abasiyama's story. I wanted to see her to her death. And that became 5 plays. And then I became even more interested in the other children, which made it swell to 9. So I grew to 9. And then in the press, I had to say it's 9, so it would not grow anymore.
So you literally created a universe, basically.
I did.
That is so very cool. How close, if at all, is this story to that of your own?
I mean, I get this question a bit, and the truth of it is that there are going to be some mirror similarities where you're going to look at it and go, you're going to squint, and you'll be like, no, I see her. That's it. That's her life. That's her family. But none of the things actually happened. What I do is I take, or I shouldn't say none of the things actually happened. I should say quite a few of the things didn't happen, and most did not happen in that way. And the way I explain it is I'll take the walk of my mom I'll take the sight of an aunt. I'll take the hair flip of a cousin, and that becomes a character. So it's really of me, and there's so much of it that you might be able to go, I think that's it, but it's not. And if you go up to the people, be like, that's you, they're going to look at you and go, no.
I was just going to ask you, do any of those real relatives, those real friends of yours, look at you after seeing it? I'm assuming they have, and say to themselves, you just did me on stage right here.
What they'll do is they'll be like, I know what part of me you took.
Oh, okay.
And or I'll know what part of me you zhuzhed around. There was one family member who was like, I think that was me, but you made it a romantic comedy, and we laughed. So there's a lot of imagination inside of there, and it's why I'm like, it's not straight facsimile. It's not a straight copy at all.
Did you have a lot of like imagination growing up? I mean, did you always look at your friends and family in a certain way and angle? And some people kind of like keep them in their memory, but you said to yourself, I'd like to maybe develop that person a little bit deeper.
I did. I did. I look at like, again, certain family members and they have a glow around them. And I love them so much that I'm like, can I catch this part of how they glow down? Because I think if you take that glow and put it inside like a romance, it's gonna be wonderful. Ooh, you were terrible in 1999. Let me take that darkness and make something out of it. And so, um, yeah. I've always imagined that way. And then there's some people that you just have so much feeling for that you just want to put them in situation and go, how would they answer that question? What would they be like? And then even if you lose touch with that person, say a best friend that had a part of your heart when you were 10, and then you sit and you're like imagining to yourself and asking yourself, how do you think they would grow over time? That becomes a story. And so, yeah, a lot of imagination sprinkling with a core of an image I know.
Now, do you have to regulate that on some level? A lot of times, sometimes I hear artists, especially writers, say that, a lot of times characters are speaking to them. Do you have to like say, okay, I have to shut this off right now, you know? Or do you just say,
Yeah.
okay, I have to have a pen or something to write with at all times near me because you never know when that character will be speaking to me?
So what has happened, especially in Boston, because I've been here for the past 2 years putting this entire cycle of plays up, is I have got no break from the hamster wheel of my own mind. As I'm like, okay, so I think Abasiama has to do this, and this. And I will have my cell phone voice recorder next to me. I'll have some kind of notebook. But I got to tell you, it's at least for me, it's not a way to live. So I cannot wait until I get a little break and I am not writing as back to back. Because yeah, it can the characters can take over. They can.
Thank you. Speaking with Mfoniso Udofia of In Old Age, which is going to be hitting an Emerson stage June 13th. What is or are there multiple missions of your multiple layered works of stage art?
Yeah, there are quite a few missions. One of the missions for me, and I'll say it plainly, is that I am really interested in bringing immigrant stories, unfiltered immigrant stories, to American stages. And I know, being a first generation Nigerian American in this country, first generation born here, that Africans, West Africans, are a part of the fabric of America, and I wanted to make sure and do what I could to make sure that there was representation of that reality on American theatrical stages.
Definitely part of the Boston landscape very much as well.
Yes, yes, and when I was coming up, I didn't see a lot of those plays, and if I did see them, it was at arm's length, or they were set on the continent, and it just made it feel as if even though the stories were compelling, they weren't American stories. And I'm like, I know some families all over from Houston, Texas to Washington, D.C. to here in like Massachusetts proper that like we are here. So that is one of my missions. Another one, especially as the cycle keeps growing and going, is what is diasporic healing without whiteness in the center? I am really interested in how our diasporas talk to each other. Um, really, there can be a separation between us that hurts me, and so I want to craft stories that show what it is to be an active relationship and loving between our communities. Because I think that inside of that, we get stronger. And that's all kinds of diasporic communities in relation to each other. So that's another mission of the cycle as well. And I'm sure I can think of more, but you will please forgive my brain. Those are the predominant two.
It is totally cool. It sounds like it's acting as a bridge. You're trying to act as a bridge, not only cross continents, but cross, and break those divides down within us, within this diasporic landing that we have found ourselves in. Language plays a key role for you. It's important to you and your work. Can you share if there were any language consultants or coaches to assist the actors to get the tone correct? Was there an additional process?
Oh, yes. So there is this one man named Emmanuel, and he has been with it since Sojourners, and
Oh,
he is a Boston find, and he speaks the major language of the play, which is EBBO. And he comes in, the man is an angel. He is precise. He is wonderful with actors. EBBO itself is a very difficult language to learn and to get into one's mouth as an English speaker. It's a tonal language. So sometimes I'm like, if you have knowledge of Mandarin, you might be okay inside of this African indigenous language because you'll hear the differences in tone. But Emmanuel comes in and he works with every single cast on all of the EBBO words in the play, getting them speaking them. I mean, the biggest lift was actually the grove where those spirit ancestors, there was a whole group of ancestors who only spoke in EBBO from beginning of the play to end. And they had to learn it like a piece of music. And the biggest joy of my life was having my mom in the audience listening, going, I understood. And I was like, yeah, Emmanuel helped. Emmanuel did that. And then you also have dialect coaches, and those dialect coaches, they change from show to show, and they come in and they are helping break down if you're like in old age, Azel's coming in from Marion, Louisiana, which is northern Louisiana, and that's a particular sound. And so it's working with the actors to get everybody as distinct sounding as possible. In the ceremony, you had people who were Nepali, and so you're finding Nepali speakers and the people who can do Nepali dialect coming in and helping. It's a community effort.
wow. It's I just want to come to just to hear the different dialects and the different types of, whether it's, northern south or BBO, you said. I'm
Yeah.
very curious. Would you, or would it be insulting to ask you if you could say a word or two in the BBO?
So Abadia is hello.
Abadie? Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
Sosongo is thank you.
Sosonga? Thank
That's
you.
it.
Okay.
And then you can go idemfo, which is how are you? How's your spirit?
Idemfo.
Idem. And you would, now my Ibibio speakers are gonna come at me. I say afon. Somebody could say I believe song, but yeah, and that
Asson?
would mean I say afon only because I know. I say it. People look at me and go, okay, that's right. Okay, you did okay. And that's good. Like, I'm good. And, for now, it's not good.
I want to let you. I'm going to give you that one. I'm not going to try to repeat that one. That was pretty good. Speaking with playwright Mfoniso Udofia, whose play in old age is one running over at the Liebergott Black Box Theater starting June 13th. I really don't want to give the plot away, but I cannot help but wonder about the symbolism of your character, who happens to be a builder and sort of healer. I'll leave it there. But there have been builders in historical teachings. Is this merely a coincidence?
Azel Abernathy
You knew exactly
coming
who I
in
was
from
talking
there.
about.
Coming in from Marion, Louisiana. So he is a builder. Um, and it's interesting though, because I think both characters are on a healing journey. None of them are healed. And if you really sit inside the history and lived reality of Azel, um, he would be the first, I think, to tell you, I'm not a healer, I'm trying to get healed. He has had a life that, if you were to look at it on paper, most people would write him off. And he knows about himself is that you don't get to where he's at, and the work he's trying to do, and should be just like discarded. And he and Abasiyama actually have to do the work of figuring out how to get to the spiritual healed place they want to be. So he is building her house, but there's so many questions on what kind of tools. What's the choice? What are we walking in this house with? And how are we walking in this house to build it? Because this is a man who builds houses, who needs to maybe sit back a little bit and ask himself, what the how is.
Are they close in age, Ezel, as well as Abbasiyama?
Yes, they
Okay.
are. Abbas Siyama is a little older
Okay.
in the timeline, but they are both looking, they both have more years behind them than they do ahead
Thank you.
on this physical plane. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If you haven't already, describing, if you may, how in old age resonates with people who may not be of the Nigerian experience, but of a different immigrant experience.
I, um, I think anybody who has experienced being the other will find themselves inside of the work. And I mean the other in a pretty big way. If you have been the other inside of your family system, if you have been other inside of race, class, the American society, our modern day American society, you will find yourself, if you have questions about what it means to be the other, it'll also be a curious show. So I think everybody can port in. There is a lot of, Abasiyama comes with a lot of EBPO referencing, but it is not the kind that will make you go, I cannot absorb the play. It'll just make you know that she has different levels of sight because she thinks in another language. But yeah, I think that's how I would answer that question.
There's been a good reception from different people from different cultures outside of Nigeria attending this play.
There really has been. I did not know uh, a lot about Boston theater. I'm coming in from New York, which might make people roll their eyes at me. And also, I had been working really like it's like you find your home base as an artist. And so I've been like porting into my home base. It's been a long time since I was inside of another community and figuring out what it is to build inside that community. And the reception, the love, the the way Boston audiences have been following this cycle. I just went to go see Laura Mvula last night, who is one of my favorite artists in Somerville. And I walk in and there were people who were like, "Are you funny? So I saw your show. I'm gonna go see it at ArtsEmerson. I have my tickets." It is a thing of beauty. So I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful.
Bravo. Abasiyama's character is, as you mentioned, at a life stage crossroads. Our world is at a crossroads for many immigrant communities, some positive, many negative with dire consequences every day. Does this or any of your plays hold a mirror of present circumstances or offer different ways of looking at people?
Hmm. So I think some of my earlier plays, like Kufre and Kwe, plays also like even Sojourners, little elements of the ceremony are going to make you stand inside the particularities of the immigrant experience and ask yourself, how far away are we today from yesterday? And do we like how we are behaving to our kid? Um, the in old age, I think is doing something more subversive, and that it's Abasiama chooses this place as her the place. This is not going to give anything away, but chooses here as a place where she's going to die when the time for death does come,
Mm.
because this is the land that she's built on, and
Put roots in, yeah.
this is this is the land that she's loved on. And there is something about what it means to stay and have joy that I think can be deeply subversive to a lot of the narratives they want to spin out and a lot of the fear mongering that is happening right now. And a quiet, I'm not leaving and I will also figure out happy is what in old age will give you.
Thank you. Inside Studio 889, playwright educator Mfoniso Udofia, whose play In Old Age will run at the Liebergott Black Box Theater starting June 13th. Only just a couple more questions. You referenced Sojourners, which talks about Abasiyama's arrival in old age. We see her later in life. Has Abasiyama been able to hold space? Has she been able to hold space for her native land and her home, her new home, and I guess the Worcester area over the decades? She's known over the decades.
I think this play, if I crack the code on it right, will help answer that question. She's been so focused on helping and on building,
Hmm.
and this will become the play in which you see echoes of who she was in Sojourners, understand the cost on what it took to build and her love of home, and then also what this place now means to her and what it means to make her own choices inside of that arc. So, yeah, I think in old age we'll start to shed light on what home was, what home is, and what it means to make choice inside of it.
And you don't necessarily have to have seen Sojourners to actually appreciate in old age.
No, no. Again, if I do my job right, each of these plays stands alone.
Good.
And when you go, you will get a very full experience. And then if you happen to have seen some of the other plays, they're Easter eggs for you, which make you go, oh, that's why she's talking like that. Well, I will give one away. In Sojourner, she said her favorite color is yellow. And then when she walks out in something yellow in an old age, if you saw Sojourners, you'd be like, oh, she's returned to happy.
Mm.
Mhm.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, because according to the description, she's actually living alone in Worcester, Massachusetts, correct?
Yes.
Worcester? Why Worcester?
Well, I grew up in Southbridge, Massachusetts, and I
Very.
spent a lot of time in Worcester. And so when I was writing these stories, I wanted to write it from an environment I knew. And I know central Massachusetts. And so that's where my setting was. It was as simple as I wanted to be able to describe the trees outside. I wanted to know when I say she's going to get something on Chandler, what that meant. There's a hyper specificity in writing, which is really helpful in color. And so locating it around an environment I knew helped me write deeper.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Interesting, because you referenced, NYC, and then your play takes place in, like you said, central Massachusetts, which is interesting in terms of the
Yeah,
contrast, because New York City and Worcester are two different places.
completely two different places. Also, two of my homes. Those are my
Very
homes.
nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, the saying goes, with age, there is wisdom. So I appreciate Mfoniso
Mm,
Udofia for sitting down inside of Studio 889 today and just dropping some knowledge of this great work, number 8 of 9. I'm sure it will be
yeah.
a great success, which I cannot wait to actually see myself and witness myself. And I sincerely hope all people who've actually are watching this will actually share that evening with Abasiyama and her family, June 13th as well. In case you did not know, End Old Age Play, 8 of 9 of the Ufot family. It's the Liebergott Black Box Theater, which is 559 Washington Street near Downtown Crossing, starting June 13th. That's a Saturday. And it runs all the way through Sunday, June 28th. So you have lots of time to check that out. If you'd like more information, you can go to artsemerson.org/events/in-old-age. If people wanted to follow you online, can they do that? And if so, where?
Of course, you can follow me. I'm still an old head. I got Facebook, and yeah, that one is just at Mfoniso Udofia, my name. And then you can also follow me on Instagram, at MF Udofia, and you can also check out my website www.mfonisoudofia.com. That's where you
Thank
can
you
find
so
me.
much. I appreciate that sharing that, and I'm looking forward to checking out this great work of art. I have about, I guess I have this and 7 other ones now to go back and try to figure out how to catch up to as well. Uh, but welcome back to the Boston area. Wishing you lots of success going forward and hopefully some rest after everything is
Thank
concluded.
you. Thank you. Thank you. It's so wonderful meeting you. Thank you.
Thank you. And from Studio 889, I'm Mo Wilks. Thank you for listening and viewing.